Welcome, everybody, to the Yo Kids Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Gargano. This is the podcast that surrounds everything youth sports. So I've covered pro and college sports, the highest level, and I have fallen in love with youth sports. I'm a big believer in sports for children. I just think it's such a great outlet and keeps them out of trouble, they learn so many great life lessons. So as we go forward with the podcast, we're going to be talking to a lot of different people in the world of youth sports. We'll talk to some professional athletes who have children of themselves. We'll talk about the journey of the athlete. We'll highlight some of the terrific youth sports athletes across the Delaware Valley and beyond. But really, we really wanted to try to give some advice to the parents. Listen, if you got a good story, good idea, please, like I said, hit me up and we'll get to it. Yo Kids Sports Podcast. And don't forget, our Yo Kids Sports Podcast is presented by Primo Hoagies. Listen, know what I've always said for years and years and years. It's not just a hoagie, it's a Primo. And this fall, whether you're tailgating, football, soccer, it's youth, you name it, make sure you got your Primo Hoagie party tray. Nothing like it for the big game. And speaking of football and the big game, this fall we're giving away a trip to Vegas to see the very big game to one very lucky, very deserving coach. So if you know a youth coach that you think deserves recognition for their outstanding dedication and passion, make your nominations today. PrimoHoagies.com. You can go directly mvc.primohoagies.com. Our most valuable coach promotion here at Primos. I love it. We got to shine some love, give some love to these youth coaches that spend their time, many of whom just getting an earful and no compensation. So they're the best. Nominate your favorite coach. Again, it's the Primo Hoagies Most Valuable Coach Contest. I love it. I think it's great. And who knows, maybe they'll get to see the birds at the big game. Wouldn't that be something? It's my pleasure, Yo Kids Sports, to welcome one of the great athletes, great inspirations, and a dear friend who I admire, who's an amazing athlete, an amazing mom now, Heather Mitz, 3-time gold medal winner, USA Women's Soccer. Heather, what's going on?
Oh, just another day in the life of a busy mom. I think it's awesome that you're doing this, and it's so good to see you. It's been way too long, so thanks for having me on.
So, just life. I just want to catch up before we get into some philosophies, and you as a great athlete, now being a sports mom first, but also a sports mom. How's that transition? And tell me about the kids and their engagement into athletics.
Yeah, I will say at first it was a tough transition for me, tougher than I thought it was going to be, from playing sports and then to everything else, retiring. But I will say that just becoming a mom, it gave me a new focus and a new passion, and there's no job that I would rather have in this world. So I'm just really kind of diving in and trying to be the best that I can possibly be for them. I think from a sports perspective, we didn't push any of them. I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. My 3-year-old is just now starting to play for the first time. But, I know a lot of people just shove kids into like every sport imaginable, and that's pretty much what happened with me. But I kind of waited till he showed a little bit more interest because I just wanted them to enjoy it and want to play. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but Connor, my oldest, he now plays soccer pretty much full year. We do
Wow.
flag football. It's crazy, like just how fast, like the requirements. I'm not crazy about it.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that later. But he does flag football, which he absolutely loves. He does baseball, and trying to think where golf. So a couple of different sports. I feel like I'm missing basketball also. So he's really involved. He stays busy. He loves it. He has so much fun. My daughter is primarily just soccer and gymnastics. So she in basketball. She played in her first basketball game today, actually.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah, and it was so fun and just funny too. Like it's hilarious watching your kids play and the things that they do. And then some things it's just like a natural thing that they pick up. And then other things it's just like it's so funny watching them just like learn and grow and try to figure it out on their own.
It's cool because, you were an elite athlete at the highest level. Your husband, AJ Feely, a pro NFL quarterback. So it's in the genes. Do you see the kids? Do they have a natural inclination? Like, do they kind of gravitate towards sport?
Now, Connor really didn't show much interest. And like I said, like I didn't force him. And we used to
Right.
just joke, we're like, he might be in the band. Who knows? Like, as long as he like loves what he's doing, then he's gonna do whatever he wants. And I'm sure he's gonna love it. And my parents always just kind of let us figure out what we wanted to do. And I think that's really important to have the support no matter what, even if it's a sport that you don't know anything about and you really don't want them to play. But if you love something, then your kid's gonna want to do it and they're going to be the best they can possibly be rather than being forced.
How is your career impacted them when it comes to soccer? I mean, in many ways a pioneer. We think about women's soccer and how incredible the run has been. You're at the forefront of that.
I still don't really feel like my kids can grasp, the fact that I mean, they've seen some old games and be like, oh, mommy, but I don't think they really quite understand, which is great. I think it's great. We prefer it that way. That way they can decide rather than feeling like they need to play a certain sport because mommy or daddy played that. It's funny because I didn't want Connor playing football. Um, I didn't. And of course, he played flag last year. And now football is like all he wants to do.
Really? Oh, that's fabulous.
Of course. But it's just funny because now it's like freezing cold outside, and every day he's like, Mom, Dad, go outside and play with me. And we're like, all right, bud. So he really loves it, and we'll see what happens. I mean, who knows?
It's funny because my oldest Anthony, my wife Tamara, she did not want him to play football, and he's a big boy. And I said, listen, I mean, he's big. I mean, give it a shot. Let's see what happens. And she grew to say, guess what? It had a wonderful impact on him. We saw his body change. He's now 12. He started when he was 11, and we've seen him get confident and walk differently. And she actually has been converted to a football
Really
mom,
fun.
somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, you can't help it. I mean, obviously, like, you gotta let them choose. And, once they're there, then it's like you just gotta support them. Because, I mean, who knows? Tomorrow you could be like, I don't want to play anymore.
Right.
Kids give up sports so easily these days that that's why you want to make it fun for them so it's enjoyable and you don't want to get them burnt out. I actually got burnt out.
Well, I want to ask you about your journey. I mean,
Yeah.
to reach the apex where you reached, I mean, tell me, you played all year round. I mean, talk about, and you played at a young age. You're 3.5 years old when you're first playing soccer.
Well, it's funny just how much it's changed because I started when I was a little older, I guess. Nowadays, it would be considered like ancient. I was 6, and back then, that was when people started playing, and I just always really loved it. My brother was 18 months younger than me, and he got really into it and became like this really just stud player and was like traveling over to Europe and stuff and doing these quarter
Wow.
videos. Yeah, he was really good. And so he and I would go out in the backyard every day and have these 1v1 battles and just,
Wow.
oh yeah. So the reason why I was so into it was because my brother was so good at it and I wanted to do anything that he did. And we would just have these competitions. And so we were actually making each other better every single day. You don't get too many opportunities to be able to have just like those 1v1 situations. And since he was so good with the ball, that meant he was keeping away from me. So I was like just trying to get away from him. Hence why I would later in life become a defender, probably.
Right? I mean, that's perfect. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, but we just loved it. We loved it. We loved going to tournaments. It didn't matter how hot it was. There was never a day, I just for myself, especially, that I didn't love playing. Like even till the day that I retired.
Really?
Yeah.
And you played all year round, right? I mean, when you're young, what was it? What was it like? Because I know it's blown up now,
Yeah.
and now it's become a 365 day a year thing. What was it like for you?
I think it's too much now. I do. I think it's too much to ask of kids. It should be fun. And a lot of times it can still be fun. It depends on the coach. And I don't think that, winning is everything. I think that you do learn a lot from losing also. So I think if coaches just can continue to like let kids like enjoy it, and obviously you're hoping that they're always going to go out there and give their best, right? Because that's what it takes to play at the highest level and to continue to have success. Um, so putting them on the right position. I actually started coaching both my kids.
Really?
Yes. And I said that I never would. But then, of course, they asked. And I will say that was one of the coolest things, but it was also one of the hardest things because, even I, as a coach, I want to teach them so many things.
Right, right.
I have all these things that I've learned that I want to like pass along to them, but it's about still making it fun. Like I even kind of found myself getting caught up in like the seriousness of trying to teach them and I wanted them to listen. And I think I took the fun away from it. And luckily I was able to catch myself and go, you know what? Like you loved soccer because you had fun. Like you need to make this a fun environment for them where they can still learn, but they're doing it and enjoying themselves. And so like even for me, it was a really huge lesson to learn. And one where I had to take a step back and just remember like why we play sports.
What's the balance? I mean, when you become mom coach and the idea of imparting all that wisdom that you learn, what is the line that you? I know it's a feel thing, but what is the kind of line where you know that you can impart this wisdom and make them a much better player? How do you catch yourself? I mean, I think that balance is really interesting because I think anybody that knows a little bit about a game or a sport, you almost want to kind of catch yourself, but you also want to make sure, look, they're not the adult. It's your job to teach them.
Right. I think it's, first of all, from a young age, it's about teaching them like the basics so that they can do things properly, technique and just like learning the game. So I think that's usually how I try to start. And then if kids like are more interested in they'll ask you questions. If they
Right.
want to know more, then that's when you're like, you try to share things with them. But I think sometimes it can be overload, and I have to keep reminding myself that when you're really young, there's only so much that you can retain, right? So it's about sprinkling little things here and there. And it's baby steps, right? It's like building blocks. So, it has been fun. It has been challenging for sure. But, I think I just want them to like really just like have an amazing experience and continue to enjoy playing.
Having played for top coaches in the world in the country, um, how do you model yourself, and how do you wear both hats of mom and coach? Right, like clean up your room versus on the field where you're telling them what to do.
I mean, I'm not kidding. It's hard. It's hard coaching your own kids because I do sometimes find that I'm a little bit harder on my own kids.
Yeah.
I expect more of them. And so it's that fine line and that balance between like treating them the same way that you would treat anybody else. It's hard, like really hard. And sometimes I think when I'm not thinking about it, then I might, bark at Connor and, say, you have to do this. But then I just have to remind myself, like, he's just like everybody else and he wants to have a good time. Like, so I think that sometimes it takes a little bit of extra reminding and awareness on my part, so I can just continue to be consistent.
Go back to your journey. So here you are playing against your brother, and what girls today have you didn't have anything near the amount of resources that kids today have.
Yeah, no, I mean, the game it's grown so much and it's so exciting to see. But I I still think when it all comes down to it, it's the same as when I was growing up. The things that really should matter. Um, I think it's very basic from the very beginning, and what their needs are. And we have to just continue to focus on that. I think when you become more elite and you move up in the ranks, then those things that you're talking about that are so much different that I didn't have back then, like that's when that really plays a major role and makes a big difference for these athletes and their longevity and, you know, um, leveling up in a way.
Yeah, I mean, think about the concept of these elite select teams, the trainers, the specialty trainers. What's your belief in all that? Like especially for parents who may have a young athlete who's got some ability. What advice would you give?
So I think it's great to have access to those things. Doesn't mean that you always have to use them, but I mean they're there if you need them. I never had those things growing up. So and thinking back on it, like there was times where I did need those things and I didn't have that opportunity. I did have a lot of injuries throughout my playing career. It would have been nice to have like a trainer there to kind of like help me through. Instead of figuring out on your own. I also think that kids a lot of times don't know how to push themselves, and sometimes don't know when to take breaks. So trainers are great because their job is to overlook and know what to do in that, from that perspective. So I think it is a really nice tool to be able to take advantage of.
Did you have travel at when you played?
I
Uh,
I started playing in 3rd grade, just like my son.
right.
So it's no different. But the ask is a lot more. I want to say we were seasonal because I'm from Cincinnati, and
Right.
we would only play in the summer and fall. I think, if I can remember correctly. Um, like winters, nothing. Maybe you could go play indoor if you wanted, but it wasn't like a full year thing. And maybe you would practice like twice a week. That's it. Um, never. I see some kids that now it's like they're traveling every single weekend. They're getting on planes or going places. That was like a rarity back when I was growing up. You could drive everywhere. You still had great competition locally, but now I see a lot of times they're getting on planes and they're going to these tournaments, which is a lot, not only for the kids, but a
Yes.
lot for the parents too. It's a lot for the parents.
I mean, financially, imagine, listen, if you're everyday people, you have a job, you have responsibilities, financial obligations, and that's a big ask. Like, let's go play a tournament in Chicago or Florida, or I mean, it's expensive. Hotels, plane tickets, everything.
I think it's out of control, if you ask
Yeah.
me. I think it's nuts and I don't think it's necessary. I think that teams should just go back and doing things like regionally, locally. There's, unless you're from somewhere in the middle of nowhere that just doesn't have good competition, like then maybe you travel a little
Sure.
bit more, but I don't think everybody should be traveling all over the country right now. I mean, plus that's kind of one of the nice things about if you have an opportunity to play in college, then you do that.
Right.
Um,
Right. Or
so
even high school. I mean, high school. Once you get to a good well, explain to me the soccer world when it comes to high school and the select teams. I guess that's a big difference, right?
yeah, so club in select, that is not obviously like that's on your own, and where you travel. And it's usually a higher level. I will say that my high school, I went to an all girls Catholic high school in Cincinnati, and we were really good at all sports. And so I did, even through playing high school soccer, I mean, I was playing at a really high level. So pretty much that was a big chunk of my year, right? Through club and high school where I was playing really high quality soccer. And I was really fortunate from that perspective. Nowadays, it's a lot of girls don't play high school or for their schools because the level's not as high. And I think because the ask of what they need for their club teams is so high that they can't do both. And I think that's kind of unfortunate too, because I think there's something to be said about playing for your school team, the pride, the pep rally,
Yeah, yeah.
friendships and things like that. So I think it's great that these kids are so dedicated. But I also feel like they don't have a choice. So that's the unfortunate part.
Which area of the Delaware Valley are you in, and the as far as the soccer, the programs around you?
So we are in Upper Providence, and my kids actually play for a club team called Nether United. Last year was my first year, and so that was the first time I coached Connor and both Blake's team as well.
What was? I'm sure some of the parents. How was that? You right? Because I know they all knew who you were. You know,
I don't think a lot of them do,
really?
which is awesome. I love that. Yeah, and the boys definitely were aware. And I had to bring out my medals one time because they just weren't listening to me.
That's awesome.
They're
Oh, I
very
love it.
guys. Long story. they they actually they started paying more attention after that, so it was great. Um, but yeah, I think my daughters, most of the parents have no idea, which I think is wonderful too, because I'm just a coach that's out there trying to learn and coach for the first time, and make sure that their kids are enjoying it. So I just think it's nice to see um, females coaching, because the majority of even in
Yes,
soccer are males.
it's funny because I wanted to ask you about that. The idea of the female coaching males, and the fact that you know you want to pull out your resume that like you pull out the gold medals. All right, that's the trump card, man.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely get a lot of looks when I show up at my son's soccer game and I'm standing there on the sideline. Like a lot of the male coaches are like, "What's going on here? Who is this girl?" So it's fun and
Oh,
funny.
that's fabulous. Yeah, that alone is great because it's almost like, especially if some of the other male coaches don't know who you are, and then they find out. I'm sure word spreads quickly that oh, it's Heather Bitts. Oh, all right, all right. How is you have been at the forefront in female empowerment when it comes to athletics? You were in the beginning, and you kind of watched it really kind of take off, and it really started with you. Let's get into some of the stuff that you had to deal with, the hurdles that you had to handle, and now coming full circle.
Um, from like in a female empowerment standpoint, I think
Yeah.
the women still aren't there for the U.S. Women's National Team. I mean, it's crazy that we have been as successful as we have, and our salaries are still so far off from the men's. Um, Obviously, the men are improving now, so it's great to see. But I mean, it it shouldn't matter. Like it's not a competition.
Right.
I just feel like the women have consistently been successful and have won so many events, and the popularity. I mean, how many games are getting sold out? I mean, just everything about it at this point. I just can't believe that there's still a disparity. that it's not equal, that they're still having to fight. It's kind of sad, actually.
Welcome to Primo. How can we help you today?
One old-fashioned meatball, and make it quick, because I got practice.
You got it. Coach?
Congratulations, Coach!
You've been nominated by your team to win 2 tickets to the big game.
Wait, nominated? So I didn't win?
Smile. Not yet, Coach.
Most valuable
Not
coach.
yet.
Smile,
Not
coach.
yet.
Smile.
Come on, smile.
Smile
Coach.
for the Cowboys,
Smile.
coach.
You got to be kidding me.
Smile, coach. 3 gold medals, the World Cup. Which go through each of the things that stood out during that journey. That's an amazing story. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's such a wonderful accomplishment. Tell us about each of those big pieces of that journey.
I mean, yeah, they're all so different. I didn't think I was gonna make that first Olympics, and I somehow did. I squeaked in there, and we ended up playing against Brazil in the final, and we went down. And then Abby Wambach, who I played college soccer with, she was kind of an unknown too. She wasn't even like the star that she is today. Came in that game and ended up scoring the game winner. And so that was just like so surreal. Like,
Yeah.
A, I'm in the Olympics, and B, I'm standing on the podium winning a gold medal. Like, what the heck is going on, right? So then after that, I was so focused because I knew that those veterans were all retiring. And so I was going to get my shot to like really make my mark. And I ended up tearing my ACL in 2007. And so basically I was 15 months to get back and make the Olympics. And basically, everybody was like, she's not good enough. She's not going to be able to do it. And I elevated like to this whole new level with my mindset and my training. I was just so focused, and I just wanted to give myself an opportunity to make the Olympic team, just to make it. And I ended up starting and playing every single minute. And, when I stood up there on that podium, it was just so cool to see, like, if you have the right mindset and you have the right attitude and the right work ethic, like anything is possible. So that was my most special. Just being able to make it back from like a major injury.
Yeah.
And then we also lost Abby Wambach, right, the game before we were heading over there. And so basically all the media outlets just said, there's no way.
No chance, right?
There's no way they're going to win without her. So that was really cool from a team perspective. Just seeing like people that don't normally get an opportunity to play coming in and having their chance, and just like the whole team came together. Like everybody had to play a little bit better. And then obviously London, I thought about retiring after 2011.
Right.
Because I promised my husband that I would start a family. But I would just like cry all the time.
Oh, geez.
Because I wasn't ready. I'd be like,
Sure.
oh, I'm retiring. And AJ would be like, just go for it. And I was like, seriously? He's like, yeah. And
That's cool.
Once again, I did not think I was gonna make that team, and I did. And then was able to stand up there on the podium and win my final Olympic gold medal. And then I was like, all right, ready to retire, ready to start that family. Here we go.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. That's almost storybook. I mean, it is. The World Cup too. You got to talk about the World Cup. What an incredible. I mean, that was amazing.
God, that was such an emotional roller coaster. Yeah, that was an amazing. I mean, we just heartbreaking that we didn't win that. Oh, we were so close, but I also just felt like Japan, everything that they had been through with the tsunami and everything.
Yeah.
They just deserved that, quite honestly. And that also set us up for a little bit of redemption in the Olympics. Yeah, it was just so cool to be able to go over. That was my first Olympics. I had torn my ACL previously, so that was my very first one. It was in Germany, Germany is just like, they love their soccer. And it was just really like this amazing atmosphere, no matter whether or not you were in the stadiums or you were walking around town.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's what it must feel like to be like in a Super Bowl. Like
Sure. Exactly.
that's our Super Bowl. So that was just an amazing experience to be able to go through like once in my career. And obviously that game against Brazil was crazy. And I don't
I mean,
know.
that was amazing, man. Are you kidding me? That was
I mean,
wild.
it was insane. It was insane. Like if anybody watched that game,
Yeah.
they're like maybe a fan or like just watching for the first time, they were
Hooked.
they were hooked.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's I think that piece of it is what 10 years later I keep going back to. I keep going back to I talk about it now. Like I've done a radio show and television and media for 20 years in Philadelphia, and I talk soccer now, and it's like awesome, right? Like
I,
it's and we would never, unless it was someone who didn't understand it and there was ignorance involved. And today we talk it.
I mean, I remember when Lori Fair and I used to come in and you guys would just make fun of soccer the whole entire time. And like, Howard, Eskin, like everybody. And we're like, oh yeah, it's funny. But
Right.
I'm happy now that we are where we are.
Yeah. And a lot of it, I mean, a lot of it was all towards you guys, man. It's so cool. What advice, now shifting to kids today, like the perseverance that you endured. I mean, did you show that to be able to accomplish all these things? What advice? I mean, you talk about kids, and you're a coach now. How do you translate this? How do you translate what you went through to kids today?
I mean, I think it's hard because that's what I love about sports is there are so many lessons. So getting your kids involved in it is it's so important for life, right? Whether or not they play at the highest level or not, they are going to learn so many things through playing sports that they're later going to be able to apply in their next career, whatever it is, or in school, or anything. Perseverance, teamwork, hard work, dedication, having the right mindset, being professional. I mean, there's just so many things. My kids are always so focused on the score, who won. They always ask me afterwards, and I said, doesn't matter. As long as you went out there and you gave it your all and you had fun, that's all that matters. Like we don't need to focus on those things. And so I think it's just letting them sometimes fail. And it's really hard as a parent. Like you want to like baby them and you want to do everything to make them like feel secure and feel
Right.
good. But I also think it's like completely and totally necessary for them to go through those things because that's how you become better. That's how you become stronger mentally and physically. It's so important.
How about for the sport itself? What would you say skill wise to work on? What would advice, particularly when you're looking at a young age and kind of moving forward?
I think juggling is one of the most important things that you can do because you can do it on your own at your house with you and a ball. I remember when I was probably 26 living in the city. And my coach told me, I wasn't very good at juggling at that point, and I was playing on the national team. And he said, go home tonight, do 5 minutes on your right, 5 minutes on the left, 5 minutes alternating. And I was living in my apartment and I had a ball in a room and I sat there and did it and thought, I cannot believe I'm this bad at juggling. I'm 26 years old and I'm on the U.S. Women's National Team and I'm so bad. But I kept at it. I did the next night, same thing. Third night later, I started to see like an improvement. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's all it takes. It just takes practice. Allen Iverson, it does make a difference. So I think it's just juggling's really good because it's working on your foot skills, your first touch. And then this is my favorite part about the story though. So I did continue to work on that. And then when I was out there on the soccer field, I actually noticed that I was more calm and confident when the ball was coming into me and my first touch
Wow.
improved. And I was like, holy cow. Like
Wow.
juggling does make a difference. So that is something that I try to tell people. Like it's super simple. All it is 15 minutes every single day of continue working on that, and it will make a huge difference in your game.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
I also think just learning the game, like watching a high level game, national team or European soccer, whatnot. But you don't watch the actual game. You watch the player that's playing your position the whole entire time to see what they're doing on offense, on defense, the moves that they're making. If they play defense, what type of way they're pushing a player. So I think there's just a lot to be learned from the players that are playing at the highest level. And then I think sometimes it's just going out in the back and just playing around with it,
Like you did with your brother.
yeah. And being really trying to be as technical as you can, like learning the skills, the foot skills, because then when you're out there on the field, like you have practiced it so many times in your backyard that when you're out in the field, like you don't have to think twice about it. Like you just do it.
Tell me about gold medal mindset.
So, gosh, I just, once again, back to the whole coaching thing, I just felt so passionate about my career and the level of success that I had. I was never the most talented, but I do think that I had the right mindset and the right work ethic and the right mentality. And so I basically just share what I call the gold medal mindset. And it goes through giving yourself permission, owning your identity, learning what you can control, and also don't stop till you're successful. So I take people through those four things. I, tell a little story about my career and then how you can apply it to your own. Um, I have spoken to various people, different companies, businesses, but I also just feel like soccer players and athletes really get the most out of my speech. So I do try to do more of it towards female athletes. And obviously it's been great to be able to connect because I do feel like my story isn't always about like winning and having success. It's about the ebbs and the flow, the roller coaster rides, the failure, and being able to pick yourself back up and still find success.
How important is that for a young athlete, the concept of failure and, those hurdles and moving through them?
I think it's everything. And I sometimes it's hard for us to, it wasn't until I retired and I sat there and I thought about my career and I was like, holy cow, that was pretty cool. All those things. But when you're in it, sometimes you don't focus on that. And so I guess part of my story also is to be more mindful of overcoming those hurdles. And when you do see, when you have an injury or you have a coach that doesn't love you, these things are put into place to challenge you. They're put there for a reason. And, I think if you have the right mindset going into it, like, okay, I see what's going on here. I'm ready for this challenge. And afterwards, you just give yourself a pat on the back and you go, wow, that was pretty awesome. And if I continue to do that, the next challenge, then I know I can get through it. So as being mindful of, how you're able to overcome those obstacles and continue to use that for the next one.
It's funny because the idea, we hear this all the time, youth coaches and through our own athletic careers, oh, this coach doesn't like me, or this coach is this, or, and then the parents feed into it. What advice do you give parents, and you as a coach now, about that sort of thing, about helicopter parenting, about getting too involved? Because you see parents today are insane sometimes with it.
you can't fight your kids' battles. Like, I mean, obviously, like you're their parent, you want to protect them, but I think you're not always going to be around. So you have to be able to give them the tools to be able to understand the circumstances, be able to have a conversation maybe sometimes with their coaches to figure out what they can do better. Um, and control the controllables. There's going to be so many things that are completely out of our control, and we can't focus on those things. Try to focus on the things that you can. Um, and it's easier said than done. I know that, but you gotta just trust that your kids are going to make the right decisions, and then maybe just be able to support them any way possible to help them succeed.
The TED Talk. What was that like?
It was awesome. I, as you know, like tearing my ACL was a very pivotal point in my career. Um, but I think that a lot of my decisions that I made throughout really are what helped me to get back out in the field as quickly as possible. And so I just wanted to share with others that these are the decisions that I made. This is the thoughts that were going through my head. This is what it takes in order to get back out in the field and to reach your goals. If I can do it, anybody can. And so I just felt like giving that TED Talk, I think, was able to share that experience and just hopefully help others.
And then train like legends. And yeah, and I want to talk to you about this because the idea of training, the idea of what you did, what you believe is good for workout for kids up through high school. Train like legends.
I am super passionate about things that you can do off the field to make you better. And because I saw how much it helped me.
Right.
And so I just wanted to create something because it doesn't exist for female soccer players, younger athletes to be able just to kind of get a leg up, whether or not it's mentally, physically. We also have it's body weights, or you can even learn how to do Olympic lifting. Because when I went to college, that's what I had to do. And I had never lifted a weight in my life.
Wow.
So just teaching proper technique. Also fitness was something that really helped me throughout my playing career to kind of, I think, differentiate me from other players. I think I was always one of the fittest players on the soccer field. And I honestly think that a lot of times that's why I started over other players, because they always knew that I would never get tired and they could always depend on me. So just seeing that and having learned that, I wanted to be able to give that tool to other players, to be able to share the fitness aspect of it. And we also have a nutritionist, just to give ideas. I think a lot of times we don't know what to eat, how to nourish our bodies, what to drink, when. So just being able to share those type of things to help athletes to be their best.
So this I got to ask you, all right, as mom, how do you navigate that, the refrigerator and the cabinet, right, the treats? How do you navigate it? What's your belief system here?
I'm a total psycho. My mom was really, really healthy when we were growing up. And even though we hated it and we'd always go over to other people's houses to like get the sugary cereals and the bad treats,
Right.
my kids do that too. Like they're over at the neighbor's house today, came back with like chocolate around their lip. But I just feel like in my house, I'm trying to control what I can, and I'm trying to teach them about nutrition. And I was the kid that went off to college, and I would cook my own meal every single night. And I had veggies with like a side of protein every night. Like I was super healthy, and
Right.
it became like a lifestyle more than anything. So I just want to teach them. And then obviously, once they're on their own, it's up to them what they want to do. But just to kind of teach them from a young age what I feel like is important.
What's the worst thing you have in your refrigerator right now?
Trying to think what's in there.
So it definitely would not be
Don't
a
even
soda. There would not be
a bottle
any.
of wine. a bottle of wine. That's it. Like, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. I wish I could lie and say there's more. I can't think of anything. Yeah. You would open my fridge and be like, "Oh, get out! I am not eating anything in there." Like, I think poor AJ. I mean, he's probably like starving. Yeah, I don't know.
When you guys go wild and you allow the kids to have a treat with food, would it be a pizza night or no pizza?
No, they can have pizza for sure. You know, AJ a lot of times like we'll take them out and get them things because to me, like I still opt for like the organic lollipops or
Right.
like, AJ's like, no, I'm giving him the things that I grew up with, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, this one time, yeah, I'm crazy.
That's awesome. That is great. Heather Mitz, you're amazing. You are. You're tremendous. We love you. You're fantastic, and
Thank
you know,
you.
such a great role model and mom coach. And so I got to get you again, and I'm going to be bugging you throughout this journey because we got to get you. You need to be out there, and your impact needs to be felt.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It was wonderful seeing you. It has been way too long. Thank you so much for having me on, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too. Give AJ a hug for me, okay?